I believe we're on page 142 in our book on Swami Ramakrishnananda this afternoon. I believe that I stopped on the top of page 142 with the first identifiable paragraph. We had just read how he behaved when going to temples. And now I'll start. His Ramakrishnananda, he was very orthodox, yet he possessed a tolerant heart. Once he had occasion to go to Saidapet in response to an invitation by a student of his for dinner. Swami Paramananda, and that's the same Paramananda who came to Los Angeles, and myself accompanied him. After partaking of dinner towards the evening, we went to St. Thomas Mount, which was not far off from Saidapet. We ascended the mount and saw a church at its summit. The pastor of the church, who was informed of the Swami's desire to see it, was courteous enough to open its gates. We all entered the church, and to our amazement, Swamiji went straight up to the altar, knelt before it as a Christian would do, and prayed. My impression of Swamiji prior to this incident was that he was a very orthodox Hindu, possessing little or no sympathy for Christian missionary propaganda. Swamiji used to say that all the Vyasa, Yajnavalkya, and Manu did and wrote were all correct and true, for they were men in whom not a vestige of selfishness could be found. He was a staunch supporter of all that was Hindu, and could be found not infrequently defending even some of its worst superstitions. His chief object, apparently, was to restore and strengthen our tottering faith in the scriptures and the sages. For such a Swami to pray in a Christian church adopting the kneeling posture was to me inexplicable. Perhaps the explanation could be found in his favorite saying, "Behave like a bee and not like a dunghill fly." The people of the Madras Presidency have a notion, rightly or wrongly, that a true sannyasin is he who has no property of his own, who devotes all his time to meditation, taking little or no interest in mundane activities of any kind, and remains in a retired place from which he comes out only for food when pinched by hunger and for water when troubled by thirst. Swami Ramakrishnananda's life was entirely different. He considered work as worship and concentrated his life to carrying aloft the message of his master to the door of the rich and the poor alike. He thought that his salvation consisted in the salvation of humanity, and with this end in view, he toiled and moiled. I've never heard that word, he moiled, to remove the misery of people who had fallen from the high ideal of life enjoined in the scriptures. Himself observing the round of all religious festivities in strict accordance with Shastras, by keeping fast, by making japam, by bathing in the sea on eclipse days, etc. He made people turn away from their much vaunted neglect of good old customs, the meaning and genesis of which they began to inquire. His theological knowledge of the Hindu religion and philosophy was profound. When expounding Shankara's philosophy, he would take his students to such great heights that they would feel themselves lost in the absolute, unless they should go away with the idea of non-existence of God. He would at once place bhakti in the forefront, so that to a careless observer, it would appear that the Swami was blowing hot and cold in the same breath. He was a strict disciplinarian. though he heeded not external respect and regard. He used to correct such habits of the students as are obstructive to spiritual progress. Once a student was found sitting in his class with his chin resting on the palm of his hand. He at once said, "Do not sit like that. It is a pensive attitude." Another day, one student was found gently shaking his legs while sitting on a bench, and Swamiji said to him, "Stop shaking. It is not good and conducive to well-being." Whenever any student drank water standing, he would enjoin him to sit and drink. He was taking so much interest in the spiritual welfare of his students and regulated their habits even. In Madras, real devotion was a rare commodity. Owing to missionary propaganda and Western education, which made its recipients agnostics, skeptics, and haters of Hinduism, Swamiji's task here bristled with apparently insurmountable difficulties. He deplored that the people of these parts had no heart, though they were strong in intellect. Whenever opportunity presented itself, he deprecated the existence of feuds between Vaishnavites and Shaivites, and between Tengalai and Vadagalai, and preached to the people of the Hindu religion in its pristine purity and glory. He did not fail to impress that the chief end of man, nay, even of society, should be to know and assimilate the essentials of religion, leaving the non-essentials to adjust themselves according to the needs of the times. He had a rocky soil to till, and his labors were not rewarded and did not bear fruit as richly as they deserved. But it cannot be denied that he did sow many good seeds, which are beginning to bear fruit slowly and gently. And that's the end of that series of reminiscences. So the next one we have chapter 16, reminiscences by the same gentleman, P. Manika Swami Mudaliar, second series. Sometime in the year 1897, I heard that an English-educated Swami was holding religious classes in Chintadripat. I was told that the Swami, at the end of the class, welcomed questions which elicited answers, revealing the vast erudition and religious fervor of the Swami. I got interested in the Swami's classes and was gradually drawn to him by his sweetness, scholarship, and spiritual zeal. Before I touch upon the spiritual stature of Swami Ramakrishnananda, let me try to give you an idea of how he looked externally. Shashi Maharaj had an attractive personality. He looked younger than he was. He appeared only about 25 years of age, but he was really 34. The smiling and tender face was very winning. His face was long and round with a strong, firm chin. His lips were thick, and his eyes, though not large, were beaming with intelligence and sweetness. He had a broad chest and a good round belly. He had strong and stout limbs, and his walk was majestic. When going to classes, he would put on a long coat over which would come below the knee, and a turban with its long end dangling over his shoulders. I have not seen him with shoes on, nor was he in the habit of carrying a stick with him. He was a man grand to look at. Shashi Maharaj was well versed in Eastern and Western philosophy, and his method of teaching was unique. He knew that the students were new to religious subjects, and so would scrupulously avoid technical terms. He made it his point to express his thoughts in simple language so that even a beginner could follow him. I remember that Swami devoted many classes to explain fully the implications of the shloka in the Gita. Matra paras... Okay. Matra parasastu konteya. Without some knowledge of psychology, this shloka cannot be fully understood, and so the Swami was particular to give it in his class. There was a thoroughness about his explanations, and when occasions arose, the Swami did not hesitate to differ from the author or the commentators. I remember how, when the Panchadasi was being taught, the Swami criticized some points in it, and as a consequence, 2 of his students stopped coming. Shashi Maharaj taught only principles and studiously refrained from referring to either Sri Ramakrishna or Holy Mother, who were the embodiments of these principles. He did so lest he should lay himself open to the charge of founding another ism. The Swami would lose no opportunity to picture to the students the glory of the Triplicane Bazaar. Nor had he the requisite money to hire one. I don't know what that is. Okay, it's because I skipped a page. This Swami would lose no opportunity to picture to the students the glory that is in Hinduism. In the class, he would often stress on jnana and bhakti, coupled with vairagyam or renunciation. So much so that the students began to ask him whether to lead a religious life, renunciation of family, home, and all, was absolutely necessary. It would appear that his preaching of renunciation to youths got him into trouble. One day when I had gone to the Mat to meet the Swami, I heard him say with a leonine heart, "What do I care for these bigwigs? I am a sannyasin and I can live on the pile of one of my students' house. Am I to teach what I learned from Guru Maharaj or what these bigwigs like?" I could not quite follow the Swami. Later on, I learned that some of the bigwigs threatened to withdraw their financial support if the Swami continued to teach renunciation to the young men and spoil their minds as well as spoil the hopes the parents were building on these young men. The public of Madras perhaps wanted that the Swami should give instruction on yoga and such other sadhanas which could be followed without prejudice to family life. But the Swami used to say, God and mammon cannot be simultaneously worshipped. So in the long run, the public of Madras were apparently not satisfied with the Swami's teachings, and hence attendance in the classes began to dwindle. Whenever the students pressed for some practical instruction, the Swami would say next time. But the next time was never to come. Was not the Swami aware that the soil was not ripe for the spiritual seedlings? When the Komaleshwar on Pet class was closed, 3 of us went to him and pressed him for practical instruction. We went on a day fixed by him when he made homa and made us take some pledges before the homa fire. But the Swami did not initiate us in any mantra. Even to those students who were very devoted and useful to him, for instance, the late Rao Sahib Ramaswamy Iyengar and his cousin brother, Rao Bahadur Ramanujacharya, the untiring secretary of the Madras branch of the mission, he did not give initiation. Apparently, the Swami did not want to assume the role of a spiritual guru, or perhaps he thought the ground was not yet ripe. I now pass on to picture to you the odds the Swami had to face in going to his classes. At the time of Shashi Maharaj's sojourn in these parts, There were no buses or tram cars. There was a peculiar type of jutka, not of the type we have now. It was a sort of small box into which three would have to squeeze themselves. One would have to sit at the entrance, and the other two opposite to him, just at the back side of the driver's seat. The entrance into jutka was very narrow, and the box was fitted in a slanting way, so that the passengers had always to learn the lesson of alertness, not to slip and knock against one another. It was a funny sight to see Shashi Maharaj entering the jutka with his stout and robust body, squeezing himself and bending his head. These juktas were not available near the ice house, and often the Swami had to walk up to the jutka stand a mile off in the Triplicane Bazaar. There it is. Nor had he the requisite money to hire one. He had, therefore, to go all the way on foot to Chintadripet, which could be reached only through Mount Road. Mount Road was then a low-lying place and was often underwater, and the Swami had to wade through knee-deep and sometimes hip-deep water to go to the classes. Through the grace of his guru, whose protecting arm he always felt, and on which he fully depended, a Juktawala who was also a Harijan, came forward to take the Swami, and ever since used to appear at the appointed time, take the Swami to the class and bring him back to the mutt. The Harijans were the untouchables. So this was who came to take care of him. The Swami would return from the classes, dead tired, to cook his own food. In the early days, there was none to help him in the management of the mutt affairs. He was his own cook, his own servant. He was also the pujari and the teacher. There were days when he returned to the mutt after a hard day's work to find that there was not a drop of ghee to fry the chapatis. There were days when, on his way back from the class, he had to ask one of his students to get a bread for his night meal. In short, the personal difficulties he had to undergo were many. But through all these he waited with unimaginable fortitude and serenity of mind. In fact, the circumstances were such that he would not have come for blame if he had shifted the center of his activities to some other place in the province. But he was a great karma yogin and had a great faith in his guru, that he was quite confident that all difficulties were sure to disappear soon, and so he stuck to his post of duty assigned to him by the leader, Swami Vivekananda. Yes, the difficulties did vanish. Some students came forward with monetary help. One student took him to the optician and purchased a pair of glasses for him. A brahmachari was sent to assist him in the mat work. Then came Ramu and Ramanuju, who shouldered the full responsibility, and thereafter the Swami's life was free from anxiety. My idea in stressing this aspect of the Swami's life is to impress upon you the ideal of devoted service and strenuous work which the Swami has placed before us by his exemplary life. Shashi Maharaj was a man who had given up everything. He would at the same time strain every nerve of his to carry on the work entrusted to him by Swami Vivekananda, his trusted leader. About 6 years passed in this wise, and Shashi Maharaj was still in the ice house. How long would Guru Maharaj continue without a habitation of his own? One Kanda Chetty, a student of his, came forward with a gift of land in Mylapore for erecting a mat. On that plot, just where the bilwa tree of the mat now stands, a small building was put up with public subscriptions, and Shashi Maharaj moved into it with Sri Guru Maharaj. His joy in getting a house for Guru Maharaj was reflected in his face and became manifest slowly in his actions also. This is telling us he was able to set up a shrine for Sri Ramakrishna. I remember with extreme gratitude the solicitude that Swami used to bestow on me. Especially, I can never forget the way of serving sadhus into which he initiated me. Whenever I used to visit him at the ice house, I would simply salute him with folded hands with the words, Namaskaram. The Swami would return with the words, Narayana. Perhaps he was observing the manner of my salutation. One day when I had sat down for conversation, he said, will you shampoo my legs a little? That means massage them. I did so very willingly and derived the greatest happiness. I understood him as teaching me how to do service to a sadhu. On another occasion, I heard the Swami using the word shushrusha in his talk to the attendant who was then fanning him. The Swami was very careful to give instruction to his students in matters of daily habit. Thus he exemplified in his life the great maxim that the spirit and not the letter of the law is what is to be followed. Vrajapani, do you know what shushrusha is? I don't either. It doesn't have a footnote either. The Swami would never allow any visitor to leave the mat without giving him prasad. I used to go to the mat at odd hours of the day just to see what the Swami would be doing then. One day I engaged him from 12 noon to 2 p.m. I was about to take my leave when he said, wait, Guru Maharaj is taking his tiffin. I shall give you a little prasad. This made me discuss with him the value of prasad. I held diametrically opposite views regarding prasad, but he instanced to me the case of Swami Vivekananda, who had no faith in the efficacy of prasad and would refuse to accept anything that was given him by Guru Maharaj as prasad. Sri Guru Maharaj therefore used to thrust a grain of rice from Puri Prasadam in a plantain and give it to Swamiji. Prasadam, Shashi Maharaj used to say, has got such great efficacy. I have ever since reposed great faith in prasad, that's blessed food. Sometimes I have heard the charge being placed at his doors of not having made sannyasin disciples. Those who had been fortunate to receive his transforming touch might not have, through some reason or other, changed the color of their clothes, like myself, but are carrying with them the fire of his ideas and working out his ideas in their own humble way. Some of my friends who saw Shashi Maharaj in the mat remarked that he was not a tyagi, a renunciate, but one living in luxury, equipped as he was with a few chairs, tables, and cots. I was requested by them to ascertain from him whether, and if so, what sadhana he was practicing. When I put the question to Shashi Maharaj, tell them that my guru had done all sadhanas for me. What a bold and quick repartee. Shashi Maharaj was a strict disciplinarian, and yet he was not slow to forgive and forget when forgiveness would result in good. I know the case of a Bengali young man who somehow fell in the company of wandering Bairagis and could not get away from them. When this group of Bairagis happened to sojourn to Triplicane, this young Bengali, having heard of Shashi Maharaj, broke loose from them and sought Shashi Maharaj's protection. His name was Jogan. Shashi Maharaj, with his mellow heart, granted it and allowed him to stay in the mott. But a few days afterwards, the truant in Jogan made him run away without Shashi Maharaj's permission. He soon returned to the mott, repenting bitterly of what he had done. Shashi Maharaj forgave him and admitted him into the monastery. Jogan, in due course, was accepted as a monk of the Ramakrishna order. And I think we'll stop there because we're going to start. Next week we'll go over a list of familiar utterances which were original. Saturday, as I say, any questions besides the ones I don't know, like those few words? I really have no idea what they are. And any other questions or comments? Okay. Saturday, as I say, we will be having Devi Prana's memorial here at 11. It will be online, Zoom, and it will be on YouTube. Swami Sarvadevananda's Gita class will be canceled because we're not sure when the memorial, how long it will carry on. But Swami Sarvadevananda's topic on Sunday will be Sri Krishna on self-realization. So I think that should be very good. And I hope you all enjoyed the talk so far this month. The one on that Swami Vedananda gave us from San Francisco, and Arupeshananda's It Doesn't Matter What You Think. Okay. We hope to see some of you Saturday, and then we shall see you. The next Sunday will be Swami Medananda, after Swami Sarvadevananda. Okay, and if there are no questions or anything, then we'll end with a chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat, Sri Ramakrishna Panamastu.